Hello, everybody, and welcome to the North Coast Podcast, where we, North Coast, a hip-hop improv group based in New York City, interview some of our favorite guests in the podcast world, in the comedy world, in an imaginary world, and make up some hip-hop improv songs while we do it. My name is Mel Rubin.
I am Douglas Widick.
I'm Rob Jean-Pierre, aka Precious Gorgeous.
I'm Dr. Brick.
And on today's show, I'm very excited to have our special guest, Mike Schubert, also known as Shubes, I think.
Yes.
You might know him from the Potterless podcast, Meddling Adults. There's so many.
There
Horse.
are a lot. Yeah.
And the new Olympian, the Percy Jackson podcast. So many podcasts, so little time. Give it up for Mike Schubert in the house.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going great. I'm just I know it's an auditory medium or audio medium, but this outfit.
Thank you. I knew it was going to be filmed because
It's
I
really
saw
good.
that you guys did it. So I was like, well, I'm a podcaster. There's only so many times people see me. I got to look pretty when
Yeah.
seen. Yeah.
Like
It's
if it was
intentional.
socially acceptable, I would put up a curtain and I would swap outfits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The drip is 11 out of 10.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just
I
like
appreciate
the Nikes,
it.
the
Yeah.
socks, the
Drip,
sweater
drip.
shirt.
Thought
Wow.
went into it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it's
Yeah.
appreciated. Thank you
It's
very
Where
much.
do you get your fashion influence from?
My older sister was a big influence. She was super into fashion, and then my mom as well. And I think they have the right approach to fashion. It was always the save up and then get a nice thing as opposed to just get a lot of stuff. So all the whole what is it, Shein or whatever,
Yes.
fast fashion,
Shein,
no. I'm more of the
H&M in your closet.
I have, I think, one shirt from college when I was I need a shirt that can only cost $5, please. But now I'm more
Wow.
of the save up. But yeah, they were big in the fashion influence, and I remember her, my sister, and then she had one of her friends in high school, Mike O'Donnell. This was the era of Abercrombie and Fitch and Hollister
Yes.
polos,
Yeah.
where they'd give you
Yes.
the polo and they'd have the stitch and it would be a
Yes.
different color. Mike O'Donnell showed me the light of you should wear a shirt underneath the polo that's
Oh,
the same color. So if
shit.
you have a blue polo with a little orange moose, if it's Abercrombie Fitch, wear the orange shirt underneath. Yeah.
Okay,
So
Mike
O'Donnell,
O'Donnell.
the fucking legend.
What is Mike O'Donnell up to now?
I think I know he's doing I know he's doing well because I feel like he posted one of those things where I don't know if it was business school or something,
Yeah.
but I feel like I very rarely check Facebook.
Yeah.
Literally I just do it when I'm running things for my podcasts.
Yeah.
If I didn't need a personal account to run the business accounts, I would have deleted it 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But every now and then when I click on Facebook, it'll be here's a friend you haven't talked to in 8 years. They're
Yeah.
doing something. And I feel like I saw Mike O'Donnell doing something and I was like, oh, he's doing well. So
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah.
He got
whatever
his
he's doing.
MBA or something.
yeah,
That
I
is
think
good.
it's something would be my guess, but I'm not
Yeah.
positive. But
All right, that's
Wow.
great. I love
Always
this.
keeping
Oh, go
those-
ahead. Yep.
Those shirts well coordinated till this day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
hopefully
Abercrombie
he's still keeping Abercrombie suit.
Keep staying in the game.
That'd
Did
be
you see the Abercrombie documentary?
Just about how they're terrible and awful and
The
Yeah,
requirements to
it was
work
a
there.
white supremacist organization essentially.
It was one of the documentaries.
Yeah.
I feel like that came out where it was there was a good run when I hate true crime stuff a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I think it's gross. My favorite run of true crime was I think it was called Dirty Money on Netflix, where there was a run when everything was true crime. They did one where they were it's
Yes.
white collar crime by white people and they get caught in the end. And I was yay, good. And then I feel after that, then there was this more phase of what if everything was about corruption? And for some of them, I was I feel I can not spend an hour and a half being oh, the people from Abercrombie and Fitch were shitty? No way.
Yeah.
So I think
true.
it was more of a timing thing. Had that come out earlier when everyone was true crime, I would have been all up on it. I think it was just a timing
For
thing.
sure. It
But
was
yeah.
hat on a hat. It's too much of the same. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Mike, you are a prolific podcast producer. And
Podcast producer.
and I actually, because we moved your up by a week, I haven't got a chance to go fully deep into your catalog.
That's okay. I am the problem of the schedule where, of course, Central Park softball had to dictate everything and rain
Yeah.
outs and reschedules, and I appreciate everyone being flexible. I try to be not bad about I pride myself on not being flaky, and this is the closest I've ever felt to being flaky, and I felt horrible, but it was all out of my control. So don't worry about it.
I love that you had such dedication to your softball team. You're they're counting on me. I think that to me strikes me as that is somebody's I got to show up for softball, guys. I have to. That's
Was that a pun,
opposite of
Ralph?
flaky
You
to
said
me.
it strikes you that way? Was that a pun?
Good catch.
Thank you.
I want
Was that a pun?
to-
That was
Double pun run. It's a double pun run. Hey, double pun run. It's a double pun run.
Okay.
Double pun run. It's a double pun run. Double pun run. It's a it's a double pun run. You know we don't fall, 'cause with a double pun run, you know we're having a ball. Yeah, you know that shit that I like. You're talking about a catch and you're talking about a strike.
Woo! Double pun run. Yes, no, we are not done. We hit that pun so far it might be a home run. Oh, it's true. Yes, in the light or in the dark. But with all these puns, I think I hit them out of the park. Double pun run. It's a double pun run. A double pun run. It's a double pun run. Double pun run. It's a double pun run. Double pun run.
Oh man, you see where it comes from. All these puns, I'm feeling like Big Pun when they come. You know what he say. You know you gotta listen again. Pun to replay. Yeah. Oh yeah, all the puns they is punishing. Oh yeah, coming back. There's one again. Yeah, you know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sing along and I'm drowning this pun.
Well, if you're feeling like Big Pun, I'm feeling like Bun. B need more puns, more from me. Don't give me single or double or triple. I want more. I want to go all around the bases. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's a double pun run.
It's a double pun
Every
run.
base. Double pun run. It's a double. Rick's got the base. Double pun run. It's a double pun.
We wound up doing it. Double pun run. It's a double pun run.
Wow.
Look at that.
Like a bat out of hell that came out with that one.
Was that a pun?
Yes,
Bat out of
yes.
hell?
Yes.
Okay, that was it.
See,
That
and
was
we
it.
wouldn't have had that
Okay, good.
song if you didn't have a difficult schedule with your softball.
Thank you, Central Park
all
Softball
meant
League.
to be.
It
But
was a
yeah,
gift.
I really enjoyed doing it. I played a lot of baseball growing up.
Yeah.
And the season's only so long, so I want to try to, get as much in as I can.
Of course, of course. You said you played it a lot growing up.
I played baseball growing up
Yeah.
quite a bit. Up until high school, I did like travel ball and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Growing
Where'd
up
you
in
grow up?
Jersey.
Jersey.
What was your position?
I was second base primarily. Once we got
Whoa.
up to the higher tiers, that's where I was. I used to, Little League played like all
Yeah,
over.
yeah,
but
yeah.
when I got to specialization, it was second base.
Nice.
Do you crave it? Like you're like during the months that you can't do it, do you get the itch?
I definitely do. And this year I happened to be traveling a lot during the early parts of the
Yeah.
season, so I missed just like a straight month and a half of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, now I'm back and I want to get in. So yeah, it was one of those things like I played it growing up and I loved it. And baseball, as opposed to other sports like basketball or soccer, like you can play basketball by yourself. You can
Yeah.
play soccer as long as you have like a couple of people and a ball and roughly
Yeah.
things you can turn into a goal. But like baseball, you're like, all right, I need 18 people as well as a bat and a ball
Yeah.
and bases. Like it's way,
That's
you can't
true.
just like go to the park and try to play pickup baseball.
Yeah.
So you need the
Gosh.
structure of a league.
But that's a pilot in the making, a pickup
Ooh.
baseball game.
Yeah, that could
yeah.
work. That could work.
Pick up baseball. Yeah, that's. Baseball is such an interesting. I feel like I was raised on. There was a lot of baseball actually when I was like in high school. I went to high school in Florida.
Okay.
But I feel like I'm like, I don't know. I feel like it's like a sort of an over there thing for me culturally. Like baseball players are a very, very particular thing. What do you think it was for you? And what do you think baseball people or softball people have in common, if anything?
I think baseball would appeal to me as a kid was that you don't necessarily have to be the biggest or the strongest to do well at it. Oh, you don't have to be the biggest or the strongest to be good at baseball. I was very short all throughout childhood, and then I had a big growth spurt in high school. But my baseball...
Would you say you're short stopped?
No.
Whoa!
This is
Damn.
becoming a kids podcast.
Wow.
Thank you.
Did
Okay.
it.
Anyway,
But I
so
appreciate
sorry.
that like you could have different elements. Like I was really good at bunting in baseball, and that did not take big, strength. It was more of like being tricky and all of that. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And I don't know. I think it was just kind of like a Northeast thing. Baseball is big where I grew up.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of the influence. And I don't know. I just enjoyed it. My
Yeah.
dad was super into it. He ended up
Badass.
coaching some of my teams. So I think
Makes
that's
sense.
what did it. As far as baseball and softball people, I think you'll have a lot of people in my position where it's like, well, I'm older and softball is only the thing realistically that you can play. So you'll have like a lot of literal
Yeah.
crossover there. But I think some of the similarities between the two, at least for me, like, I don't know, at the end of the day, it should all just be about fun. I think it's
Yeah.
very strange when people take Central Park softball really seriously.
Yeah.
There's a difference between taking it seriously, like me, like trying to go to every game
Yeah.
and then take it seriously of like, there was a guy on an opposing team who popped out with the bases loaded and then smacked his hand so hard against the pole that he broke his hand. Like, is that worth the thousands of dollars you just paid because you like made an out in a game? I don't know. So my favorite trash talk that I will do when other people get angry or like yell at us or whatever, I will always be like, oh man, the scouts are going to be really disappointed in you. Like, they're really out here today. Going to get called up. Yeah. So I would think fun is the things that link baseball and softball because at the end of the day,
Totally.
they're just have a good time.
Is that the same mentality and mindset you bring to these very amazing and successful podcasts you do? Like, do you try to keep a sense of fun while making them?
Definitely. I think this content that I'm doing, because I made it a whole different things growing up. Like I did YouTube videos and I did Vine and also other sorts of stuff. And I remember back in the YouTube days when I was doing it like 2006 to 2014 or so. I did
early.
like high
That's
school
the
college.
first.
Not 2000. Not okay. Later in 2006. Then sorry.
It's just you and both.
2009.
Still
2009
really
to
early.
2014 is when
Yeah.
I really did it a lot. And I just remember like rage videos were like a thing, and that was like a whole like genre of content. You'd be like, I'm gonna watch this to see this person get mad at this thing. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, so I think that it's definitely something I'm trying to do now. Even with early Potterless, like when I started it, I thought the whole kind of joke of it would be like, oh, I'm gonna dunk on the Harry Potter books because I never read them before. It was me going through them for the first time as an adult. I'm like, oh, I'll be an adult and I'll be like overly critical and snarky. And then one of the fun things I think about Potterless is like, as I get like halfway through the third book, I'm like, what? This book is good, guys. Like, these are fun. And then it became much more positive. So then when I started the newest Olympian, the Percy Jackson one, I was very much like, let's make it positive. Let's make it all ages. So I don't say any curse words on it because I didn't realize like kids would be listening to them.
Sure.
So it's certainly something that has bled into the shows now where I think positivity is just a more enjoyable thing for me to consume. So that's something that I would want to put out there. And it's just way more fun to make things to be positive than to be negative. Unless it's like righteous anger. Cause like the whole like last year of Potterless, I was just like dunking on JK
No spoiler.
every
about JK.
episode. Every episode.
Yes.
Cause as I was finishing it, that's when she was like very
everything
publicly
was-
transphobic. So like then it's a little different.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not out here doing like, oh, let's have a rant video, guys.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
about that.
started, so similarly to Potterless, I started my Harry Potter journey right when COVID started.
Okay.
But this was only like maybe like 8 months before all the J.K. Rowling
Yeah.
stuff happened, or maybe less than that. But
it was like mid 2020 is when it started to get
yeah,
bad.
but similar to, I didn't have a podcast, but I was like, while I was reading, I was just doing Instagram stories, like updating people, and people were like, I can't believe you've never read or seen any of the movies. I'd never done any of it.
Wow.
And so I'd read a book and then watch the movie and like post all my thoughts.
You did
But
some
then-
great posts.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Yeah.
So you'll notice if you go back to them, they pause like a fifth of the way into book 4. That's as far as I got. And then all the J.K. Rowling stuff was happening. And for me, a part of the fun was like getting to post about it. And people were like, just read it, just finish it. Like, you're at the good part. And I was like, but I feel shitty like posting about, like, I don't know for you, is that like difficult if if you could talk about it, but like, 'cause I know you still do some Potterless stuff.
Right.
Like,
It was certainly tricky.
So hard.
At the time, Potterless was the most popular Harry Potter podcast. So I felt part of like a bit of, I don't know, like I had a platform and I was like, let me use this for good. So I just tried at any instance to like share anything that I had learned about what she was doing. Cause like I'm a straight white cis dude. There's only so much where I can, you know, just, I was deferring to other people more knowledgeable on the subject. So whether I was reading stuff or watching videos, and then I had Jackson Bird on, who's an incredible content creator, trans man.
Yeah.
They were on an episode and just for the first like 20 minutes, I was like, can you just break it all down? And that was really helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was, anytime JK would tweet stuff or whatever, I would try to share exactly why she was wrong and, you know, signal boost any sort of video or essay written by people from their firsthand experiences with it. Cause I just felt that there's a lot of people listening, like I should do something so that people, because genuinely there are people who are confused, like I don't see it. You have some of the people who are bad actors, like what's the big deal, or like, you know, it's like, you know what's going on, especially at this point.
Totally.
And also what I ended up doing was I think I was like halfway through doing partway through doing Fantastic Beasts movies at the time. So I was like, I'm going to finish these. I donated all the ad money to trans charities. So like Marsha P. Johnson and Trevor Project and stuff like that. And then from that point on, I only did fan-made and unofficial stuff or things she didn't have a hand in at all. I didn't want to cover anything, so I never ended up covering the third movie. Obviously, the video game that came out, like I was already done posting episodes, but I was like, I'm not even going to touch this. So it was tricky. But at the end of the day, like I wasn't necessarily directly profiting from her, but at the same time, I didn't want to promote any of the new things that she was doing so that no money was going to her. So that's why I didn't do the third Fantastic Beasts movie and anything else. And I turned down sponsorships from like Warner Brothers partnered things because it just like felt weird. So I tried to.
You're like, who's this Percy Jackson guy? Let me switch gears.
Thankfully, I was before all that went down. Like I was thinking about doing something just because I was just running out of Harry Potter content to cover. So I was already probably going to do it, even if JK didn't do all the crap that she did. But it timed up nicely where I was like, all right, I'll finish what I'm doing. I'll do about a year of just kind of like keeping the stuff going. And I think now, because when I'll post things about like how I'm not doing the video game or something, people will be like, well, you're still making money off a Harry Potter thing. It's like, I'm not making... I don't know. None of it's going to her. Like I don't cut her a check, and I try to do it the best way that I can. And any of the things that I'm making money from with Potterless still are just like live shows or things like that. Where I don't know. I think there's a difference. Like I think just because you have something bad, you can still like cover it, and I think you can have critical fandom. And a lot of the people that I liked in the Harry Potter world, like Harry Potter and Their Sacred Text and these other great podcasts, like they were trying to use their platform as well to call her out and give Harry Potter fans a safe space, because like you can still read the books and you don't have to completely delete all of your happy memories or friendships that you made because of it.
It's like punishing your like I think there's a lot of can you guys hear me? I think there's a lot of like some celebrity or public figure does something that is, you know, just terrible or something, but like they've made something beautiful in the world, which is already like, I wanted to ask you about that. That's already like a crazy thing, that like somebody who can do something terrible can also contribute something like transformative to the world, and those two things exist at the same time. But like also I'm just thinking about the nature of any of these people who are asking that, like, who is this perfect person they're imagining who like every single thing they do is totally ethically aligned with every, like, you're a person, you have a job, you chose this property, and you're like, I enjoy this property, like, oh, every single thing, like ethically and pick up, like, who can do that?
And it's also
who
just
possibly could do that.
I started Potterless in 2016, so it's not what was I supposed to do, like travel in time and be like, oh no, in 4 years, like there's no way to do it. So I didn't just like keep the show going and like milk it, but at the same time, sometimes people are like, well, you're still doing live shows. Like people like the podcast and people want to be able to see it live. So if I go to a new city I've never performed in, I'll do like half Potterless, half the new Olympian to give people the opportunity to see the show. But yeah, just like you're saying, like, you know, she's the one who sucks. Why do I have to lose my job?
Also, like, let them pay money to see you and not pay money to go to like Harry Potter World. You know?
Exactly. None of the money's going to her. None of the money's going to Warner Brothers, stuff like that.
Totally.
So I think that I'm doing the best that I could. I'm happy to receive any of their criticism.
No, we agree. We support you.
I think that I tried to handle it the best way that I could.
It's so interesting to me how you started. You said you started off the Harry Potter podcast and you were like, oh, this feels like, the tone of this feels like I'm going to be like doing a lot of snarky comedy and commentary. And then over time, the material and the experience with the material and your own, like maybe growing awareness of your own taste and just human experience was like, oh, it's the whole thing is better if I just have a positive outlook. And like, I also feel like this experience of like having to deal with the J.K. Rowling conflict of doing that material is like probably an opportunity to examine, like, okay, what's my relationship to this artist and their art? It's stunning to me how you're having like this like human experience where this thing you do for a job is like helping you to just part of your growth as a human being.
Yeah. That's a big thing with podcasting. I think the community is what shaped a lot of different things. The community of listeners is what led to me wanting to be more positive about it, because it was just more fun when, you know, we were all like enjoying things together, and, you know, they're all Harry Potter fans, so it's more fun than having like a fight thing where I'm like, oh, these books are actually bad. So that was part of it. But also, I think to get to the growth as a human thing, I've learned so much from podcasting, just from having such a diverse group of listeners and people reach out. Just like language thing, I think is the biggest growth point for me. Like I will listen to some old episodes and not be super proud of what I'm saying. I'm not out there like saying awful things or, you know, making like really distasteful jokes or anything like that, but just little things like, you know, saying like, oh, that's so crazy, and someone being like, hey, maybe use a different word. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Or just like things I didn't even think about, like saying, oh, you know, rank on the totem pole. And then a Native American listener was like, hey, maybe say something else, because like that's also not how totem poles work. And I was like, oh, well, I never thought of it, but it was just like an idiom. So there's little things like that I think have helped shaped me, and just I've been able to learn so much from all the people that I've met or interacted with online or whatever it is. And it's really helped me grow as a person, and I really, really appreciate it. And I always just tried to make my learning and growth as public as I can be, rather than delete things out of old episodes or delete old posts or whatever. I would rather just like, if I messed up in an episode, in the next one say like, hey, people reached out, my bad. Because if I'm learning something, there might be someone in the exact same boat who didn't know that saying this particular thing isn't ideal, or this might rub someone the wrong way. So I would rather share that and use myself as an example of growth, rather than be like, look at me, I'm perfect and I never made a mistake ever. And like, I don't have to apologize because I've never done anything wrong.
Leave that to Martha Stewart.
I'm watching the latest season of The Bachelorette, and one of the early 30-second promos for the season had a big spoiler of somebody who makes the finale, and then they went back and they removed that tiny little clip from that spoiler, and they're just going to pretend it never happened. And that's how you're different than them, Mike.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. You're like the Bachelorette. You're like the Bachelorette. You're like the Bachelorette. Your life is heavily edited. You're like the Bachelorette. You're like the Bachelorette. You're like the Bachelorette. Your life is heavily edited.
Edited Bachelorette. It's got so many seasons. Ooh. All these people who are here for the right reasons.
Hey-o.
Yeah, I'm going to be here to the end, but I don't know. I'm not here to make friends.
Yes, this is so true. I edit myself and I edit you because, you know, I'm not going to give you love if you cut to that clip of me and you in the hot tub.
Life is the Bachelorette.
Oh, yeah. Life is the Bachelorette. Your life is the Bachelorette. It's heavily edited.
You're doing great.
I'm going in. I'm going in right now. Where do I begin? Oh man, I never tripped and fell. Everything I ever did came out so swell. Everything I ever said was cool. Man, I always did well in school. Every time I was alive, I was right. Every time I was alive, I was right.
Life is the Bachelorette. My life is the Bachelorette. My life is the Bachelorette. It's heavily edited. You get a
What's
rose.
that clip in there? Oh, nobody knows. But one thing is so true. It's Doug just gave me that rose, and I accepted it. Did not edit it. I wanted to not regret it. So I accepted the rose, and off I go. And Mike never edits shit. Life is the Bachelorette.
My life is the Bachelorette.
My life is the Bachelorette.
It's heavily edited and drunk in the pool.
What?
Drunk in the pool, Bachelor in Paradise, ready for you.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of the North Coast Podcast. We wanted to pause here to let you know that we have an exclusive Patreon where you can access bonus content, freestyle tips, and a Discord channel only for our patrons where you can submit interview questions, ask freestyle tips directly from the team, and request guests. So head on over to patreon.com/northcoastpodcast and subscribe for as low as $1 a month. And now, back to the podcast.
This is something I don't think I've ever asked to a group of improvisers. I also want to know if you've ever done improv, and also
Quite
I
a
want to
bit.
know how is it that you can rap?
Yeah, what the hell?
You jumped in on the first verse. Like, okay, professional.
That's probably a first.
Yeah, I
That
think
was
that
a
is.
first.
That is a first. Yeah.
Oh, glad.
That's
Happy
awesome.
to break around
Yeah.
there. No, I did improv starting in college. I was on my college's improv team,
Awesome.
Spontaneous Combustion.
Where is that? Wait.
It's Rice University in Houston.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we were very good. Like, we were objectively very good. CBS did something of like fun things to do in the Houston area, like top 5, and we were number 3.
Wow.
Our shows were free, so that's like pretty tough to beat. But no, I did a lot of improv there and had some really good teachers. And then I just started doing stuff around. I did comedy sports in Houston and
awesome.
stuff in comedy sports and with CSC Seattle. And then when I was in Seattle, I joined a hip hop improv troupe called A Tribe Called Yes.
Okay, we did not know
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Glad
Were
I
you at
opened that
Unexpected Productions?
I did some like jams at UP, but I
Okay.
never was with them like officially. I was with CSE officially, and then I did some stuff with Jet City and
Okay.
UP.
Okay, so
The
it's
Jet
just-
City thing was A Tribe Called Yes. So yeah, for like 2 years
Wow.
we did
Wow.
improvised hip hop stuff, and then even after I moved out of Seattle, whenever we would do like festivals or anytime I'm back in
Yeah.
Seattle, we would try to do shows and stuff. So it's like we're not regularly doing it anymore, but we
Yeah.
still kind of do stuff every
Amazing.
couple of months or so.
Well, this
Yeah.
goes to the
This
second
makes
question I
sense.
wanted to ask.
It all makes sense.
Yeah, it all makes, which is, I feel like one of the perks or the benefits of being an improviser that I think is that I wonder if you guys notice this as a perk or a benefit. It's hard for me to gauge because I've done improv most of my life, so I don't know what I would be like otherwise. But I sort of feel like one of the things improv gives you is it makes you more okay than a person who doesn't do improv with making mistakes
Yeah.
in public and,
Mhm.
in,
Yeah.
and in life.
For sure.
And yeah.
I don't know if there's a
Accepting them.
question.
Do you
there,
feel
but-
like when you podcast, like I'm gonna make a question out of your statement.
Please, please help me out.
And I do have I have my own question I've been sitting on for you. But yeah, to jump off that, like, do you feel like improv informed your creative process as a podcaster?
Definitely it did, because at the end of the day, at least for my style of show, it's just conversations. And I think with improv, I take kind of that approach to the conversations because, yeah, we could just like go through my notes because it's usually me going through a chapter or two.
Yeah.
It could just be me going through the notes or go through the plot, and that's it. And we just talk about that. But I think what's more fun and what makes it actually a podcast and not just Spark Notes audio edition is that you have the tangents. And I think the biggest thing that has translated from improv to podcasting with those tangents specifically is like knowing when to extend the bit, like finding the game, knowing when to extend it, and then knowing when to be like, all right, let's rein it in and get back on track. So I think that has been the biggest thing as well. But improv is also informed, I think, just like, to get what you're saying, like personality wise, I've always viewed improv as like a positive, uplifting team sport. And it was always my favorite comedic thing out of all the things I tried, as opposed to like stand up or anything like that. I just found the people to be more enjoyable and the energy behind it to be much more uplifting. And I tried to take that into the show as well. And then now when I do these live shows, a lot of the things I do are basically just kind of like structured improv. We would do like brackets to determine the best thing. And we change the rules every round where it's like, okay, now you have to, argue for what thing you think is better in rhyming couplet form or whatever. And then a lot of the shows I'll do.
Can we do that right now? I want to play that game right now.
And some of the other things I'll do is like, we'll take reality TV show formats and then take either Harry Potter characters or Percy Jackson characters and then put them through it. So I've done things with like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
Amazing.
I've done things with Survivor and Big Brother. I've done things with cooking shows, like doing all of that. And then I always try to get the crowd involved to like prove that I'm not scripting it. So I will come up with things and have lists of them and have the crowd yell out a random number or have them do applause-o-meter to say who would go on to the next round or who would get eliminated. So I always try to keep those improv elements because I think that's what makes things really fun, and like proving you haven't planned this is always fun for me. So that really informs a lot of the live shows that I do as well.
That's awesome.
Badass.
Amazing.
I love that. Okay, so I have a question for you.
The one you've been
between
sitting
you
on.
two, yeah, I've been sitting
Pulled
on
it
this
out from
one.
under your
His
tush.
hatched out
Yeah.
of the egg. Here's the question.
Okay, so you appear to be very ahead of the curve on things. It seems like you did YouTube, like when it was like right before it popped.
Yeah.
You did podcasts, and then now podcasts are like completely saturated.
You read Harry Potter at the age 24.
Okay, you were very late on Harry Potter. I'm sure you were doing something like investing in Apple when you were 9, though.
Yeah, something else is taking every time.
But my question for you is, what are you looking around for in general to have that skill, and what do you think is next? What is the next big trend?
The secret to me being ahead of the curve is that it's not me ever knowing like what's going to happen next. Every time I've done something where I've been ahead of it, it has solely been just because it's what either fit my creative style better or was more enjoyable to me. I started doing YouTube videos because I wanted to do stand-up comedy, but I was 17 and they wouldn't let me into bars to do it. So I was like, well, I'll have to do this on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then when I switched from doing YouTube to Vine stuff, my favorite part of YouTube was the community and meeting people and stuff. And that's when YouTube really had more money going into it. So it was way more about promoting like established things from bigger creators. So Vine had much more of a community going on. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to do that. And then with podcasting, it was just me and my friend had just a show for one of our fantasy basketball leagues. And then as we started doing it, I was like, oh, I like this better than when I did YouTube videos, because YouTube videos, I would have to like film it during the day because I could have natural lighting and it looked better. Or like my acne looks bad, so I don't want to film a video. I got to wait until like my pimples go away and all this stuff. And podcasting, I was like, oh, I can record it whenever, I can edit it wherever. Like it doesn't matter if I do it late or early, and it's just so much easier. So with podcasting, it was just like, I like this format and I can do it in a more flexible manner. And I was always doing it in my free time, you know, when I wasn't doing my engineering job, what I used to be before I was full time with this.
Oof.
So,
Which we should get into.
sure.
Yeah,
But yeah,
wow.
really, like anything I've been ahead of the curve on, it was just like me just doing something. Even like I don't like go heavily into the stock market, but the only time I did something good was when Robinhood, that app, like first came out. I was living in the Bay Area, so my tech friends knew about it, and it was this thing where like if you signed up, you could get like 15 free bucks if you put in $100. So I did that, found the two safest, most boring stocks I could find that were like $50 each, and bought one share of each, and then I had 15 left over. And then I had a friend who worked at Square, and at the time, like all they did was like the credit card swipe.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you know, my buddy Sal works at Square. Like I have $15. Their stock costs like 13. Why don't I just like buy a share of Square?
Oh, that
And then
investment paid
it
for this
went up,
outfit.
yeah, it went up to like 180. Like
Wow.
so none of my decisions have ever been like because I'm a genius. It's just
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, this is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So I can't really predict what's next, but instead I would give people advice like if you are trying to figure out whatever you want to do, just like do whatever actually works best for you, because then if it does work out, cool. But also I think it would be better for you to like have something that you enjoy and then it blow up, as opposed to like something you don't like blow up and you're like, oh God, I don't like making YouTube videos, but all my YouTube videos are really popular. Now to keep doing them, like it's gonna not become fun anymore. It will feel like a job, especially if you're trying to do something as like a creative hobby, which is what all my stuff started as, and I was fortunate enough to where it became a job.
Nice. Very nice. So engineer. So you do or don't do this still?
I don't do it anymore. I
Okay.
went full time with podcasting in July of 2019.
Okay, badass.
Where engineering started how and where, and what was the path through for you to get to working, and what kind of engineer were you? I don't know anything about
Sure.
engineering.
I was a mechanical engineer. I did it because in school I was best at math and science, and I knew that if I got a job in engineering, it was mostly math and science, and I could get a job that paid pretty well. And at the time when I was in high school, this is when I was making YouTube videos, and I was really into The Lonely Island. And I was like, well, they got on SNL because they're funny, not necessarily because, like, I think they did go to film school, but it wasn't like, you know, they got on because they are talented. They didn't necessarily get on because of like their credentials. So I thought like, okay, how about I'm good at engineering. I know I can get a steady job in it. I'll just do that in college, get a steady job, and then also, you know, save money and do fun stuff on the side, and, you know, do stand up or improv or sketch or whatever it is at night. And then if something takes off from there, cool. And hopefully I make enough where I can save and make a leap. And I have a friend, Adrian Pellerin, who was on this show.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
love you.
Yes.
When I was in college, he was basically doing the same thing, but with computer science. Like he was studying to be computer science, but he's like, yeah, I'm going to get a job, and then I'm just going to like save a bunch of my money. And then once I have it saved, then I'll jump into the creative world. And he did that. So when I saw him do that while I was like, still going through college, I was like, okay, so it is possible. And then I worked as an engineer for 4 years. And during that time, I started just doing Potterless, in the evenings or weekends or whatever. And then eventually it just exploded in terms of listenership. And then it eventually got to a point where I felt confident enough financially to switch from an engineering job to a job in digital marketing, doing podcast advertising. So basically finding podcasts for brands to sponsor. Yep. And it was a digital marketing company that did like Facebook ads and Google ads and all that kind of stuff. But I was like the podcast guy, and I would just do the reverse of what I was doing for my own show of trying to book ads myself. I would just be like, oh, you're, this brand, you'd work well with this podcast. I did that for like 6 months, and then ended up doing that part-time for 3 more months, and then eventually got to the point where I was able to go full-time. Yeah.
He engineered his life.
He engineered his life. He engineered his life. And he did it right.
And
He did it right.
He engineered
his life.
Again.
He engineered his life. Mechanically, he engineered his life. And he did it right.
And
he did it right.
Yeah, he liked the math and the science at school, but in the back pocket, he said this YouTube is cool. Yeah, math and science, engineering is fine, but the year now is 2009, and I'm gonna be an internet sensation. I'm gonna take over the podcast nation. Oh, one step at a time, like a boopity blip, and now I'm gonna just post this one YouTube clip.
He engineered his life. He engineered his life. He engineered his life. And he did it right.
And
he did it right.
Wait till you find and see all the angles. See how I'm gonna match them and change them. I got this plan, it'll take this much time. I just have to make sure I'm on my grind. Yes, in my mind I have plotted the plans. I have gridded the grids and I stand where I stand. I'm on this mic at night, work in the day. And I engineered it all to go my way.
He engineered his life. He engineered
His life.
He engineered his life.
And now it's time for Mike.
And now it's time for Mike.
Yeah, engineer. I did it for 4 years, and I can't believe all the thing and where it goes. Now I was in a place back then I wore fire-resistant clothes. Oh, gosh, with my engineer bros, but they were nice, they were cool, it was all right. Went to school, studied it was good, but it wasn't for me. No, I did it, did what I had to do, but that's that. Didn't need this hard hat, no.
His life. Mechanical. His life. Like McGonagall. His life. He's so smart.
And he did it right.
Saved up for that. All right. Yeah.
Ooh,
Thank you so much for listening to the North Coast Podcast.
Yay! Thank you so much to Mike Schubert. Mike, you can catch all of his podcasts, The New Olympian, Potterless. We didn't even get to talk about my favorite podcast, which has like 5 episodes, but it's just so
Modern Muckraker?
silly. Yes.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
think
Like,
every
it's good.
episode title feels like it was improvised.
That was another big improv thing, and it was fun. I don't want to take if we have to get out of here and we got to stop talking about it, but I could talk about it. It's
I
a fun
feel
one.
like we have to have you back at some point.
Yeah.
We have
Let's-
to
okay.
have a part
I
2
feel
with
like we
Mike
do.
Schubert.
Yeah.
Hopefully softball gets canceled again. But, go check out. You can,
We'll interview him on the softball field.
yeah, running around the bases.
Originally what was going to happen if this didn't happen with my game getting rained out today, I was going to come straight from a game, so I would have been in like the pants, the hat. I would have been like the whole thing,
Amazing.
which would have been a very different vibe.
Is there anything you want to plug coming up?
Oh man, sure. If you just go to my website, which is Schubs, schub.es, that's got all of the stuff for all the shows. So Potterless, the New Olympian, Horse, which is a comedic basketball podcast, Meddling Adults, which is a mystery show for charity, and then Modern Muckraker, which is like a scripted, comedic, pretend investigative journalism show where we ask very important questions like, when should Spider-Man take the subway instead of web swinging? Or is the budget of East High School from High School Musical realistic for a public school in Albuquerque, New Mexico? That's all there, as well as upcoming live shows. So I do live shows for Potterless and the New Olympian. I've got a show coming up in New York in October, if you're around the area, but I'm coming to Philly and Chicago and Milwaukee and Minneapolis and DC, so there's all that stuff there. All of it is on the website, Schubs, schub.es.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Instagram?
My Instagram and my Twitter are both Schub17, schubes17. You can find me there.
Nice.
Find him
so
there.
much.
And if you like this podcast, feel free to hit that smash that subscribe button. It's 2009 on YouTube. And check
Rate
us out
and
on
review
Patreon.
on Apple
Yeah,
Podcasts.
rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Check us
Yes.
out on Patreon. And have a lovely afternoon.
You better
better
be
be.
watching in the
It better be.
afternoon. Otherwise.
Yeah.